Mr. Snelling from Ray White, head of Ray White Property Management for New Zealand, who's got a few minutes of wisdom for us all. Zac, the floor is yours.
One of the questions I was asked to talk about was, one of the most common mistakes some landlords make, because obviously in our work doing property management services, we actually offer a lot of services, tailor-made services for landlords, even if they manage properties themselves. This could be sourcing tenants, it could be inspection-only packages, whatever it might be. When we do that work, unfortunately, we come across all manner of situations, and often when a landlord calls us in to help, it's at actually a point where, unfortunately, the unintentional damage has already been done. So I've got a little slide here when we get it ready, but you guys just sing out if that happens. But I'll just talk through some of the points now anyway, while you got me looking at me face on. A couple of key points for everyone, private landlords, particularly if you're watching this. Please be very careful with your tenancy agreement documentation. You heard from Sarah V before. Ray White New Zealand, we partner with tenancy.co.nz, where Sarah works, and Sarah is one of our account managers there. Through that system, we have live updated tenancy agreement documentation that changes as the legislation changes as well. For any of those landlords who are working off an old photocopy tenancy agreement or template that they've used for many years and they keep reusing over and over again, there's all sorts of things you have to have in there now. Obviously, your healthy home statement, which Grant will be across, your insurance information that you've got in there about what type of policy you have and what excess amounts are in there as well. There's 3 or 4 different key things in a tenancy agreement that has to be in there now, where failing to have them can lead to, I think it's about a $500 fine each one. So that's a key one, making sure you have the right documentation. The initial tenant application and vetting process, again, is key. Not only has that just changed for us again, as Sarah's highlighted, and we're going to have to update all of our processes there, but making sure you're doing credit checks, you're looking through those documentation and asking the right questions of a referee. The amount of times we have tenants give us their best mate as their landlord reference, who says everything's perfect and they were a great tenant. All it takes is asking a few of the right questions, which we can help you with there. One of the other key bits and pieces I'll share with you is making sure you keep the right records. The Rta Amendments Act came into force February 11 this year, and it placed huge layers of requirements for landlords now around record keeping. So you have to keep every single record around the tenancy, the initial communication we offer. Obviously, again, Grant, you'll know about the healthy homes requirements we have there for documentation, record keeping. So that's another one to check. Big one as well is actually, I can do the share screen now, can't I? No?
Yes, we're on.
Perfect. Yeah, you do it, Zac. You go for it.
Okay, cool. Here we go. Cool. So you guys can see this one, okay?
Yep.
Perfect. So this is what I was sort of talking through before. Yeah, so record keeping requirements. The unlawful dwellings is a big one as well. We see so many issues with, particularly down around Tauranga and Papamara, in that area, where investors will purchase home and income, or they'll see a listing online that is proudly promoted as a home and income opportunity, where the second dwelling on that property can't actually be classed as a lawful dwelling. There are multiple risks there for landlords. So the worst case scenario is we've seen situations where landlords have to pay back the entirety of the rent to the tenant. So make sure you're checking that one. We have a whole guide for landlords, which you can get on that one. The Rta Act 2020, that is huge. So many different variations there now around lease types, serving notices. Landlords have to be particularly careful around their choice of periodic or fixed term leases, depending on what their future plans are. Again, a lot of information we can give you on that. I've only got 5 minutes or so tonight, so I'll keep powering through. Probably out of all of this one here on the list, I would say your landlord insurance and the careless damage risk is a big one. Tenants for careless damage, basically, if you can't prove that the tenant damaged your property intentionally, it falls under careless damage, and the maximum liability is your insurance excess or 4 weeks worth of rent, whichever is the lower amount. Many landlords are horrified to find out that their policy will not cover all manner of things that happen at a property. So if there's one thing on that list I'd highlight, it's probably landlord insurance. Check your policy and what you're actually covered for. I'll sort of ask about face here, Greg, and go back to the start quickly. So just to highlight there a couple of things about obviously Ray White New Zealand and the demand that we've got. But what I'm going to point out more importantly is the team at Mount Maunganui, Papamara, Whakatane and Ohope. This was for last month. The team here across these offices alone had over 2,000 individual requests from tenants to view their rental properties. These are just those 4 offices in the 1 month of October. From that, they had 72 viewings. It goes to show you just how many properties are actually available versus the demand that we're seeing. And they received 651 applications. Now that comes through the application system we have through Rta and Tenancy.co. The reason I wanted to point this out is because yes, things have changed around interest deductibility. There's rules now around LVR changes that are coming into place as well. You can somewhat navigate those through looking at new build properties, but all we're trying to get at is if you're a landlord who's in a position to purchase more properties, man, we have the tenants to fill them. And there are really good solid rents coming through as well. The demand is not anything I've ever seen before like it is right now. So talk to Greg, Natalie and the team if you're interested in expanding your portfolio, because they certainly have waiting lists of great tenants. You heard me talk about the pitfalls for private landlords. For anyone watching tonight or rewatching this back, the team have so many free resources that they can send through to you. These are all designed to help all landlords, whether you work with us or not. We're just trying to help everyone and be in that advisory space. The top 2 in particular, there's some video links for the Healthy Home Standards and the Rta Act 2020. Those are 2 really good videos. You can see that was back when we were able to get haircuts. Man, I miss those days. Can't wait for that again. The Unlawful Dwellings Quick Guide, Landlord Information Guide. We've got all sorts of tools there for landlords. If you have any queries or you're not sure about any of those key topics there, we have basically a free guide for all of them. So talk to the team and they'll be able to share those with you. I had one more point to talk about tonight, or something I was asked, is just around what's changed with COVID-19 and the rental market. It certainly has been a bit of a roller coaster, but it's nothing that property managers aren't used to. We're certainly taking it in our stride, and the team are very well supported in education and resources. But there's some new legislation that has been passed, which will be coming through. Effectively, that makes a lot of changes for any future worst case scenarios where we go back into a level 3 or level 4 lockdown. Tenancies will remain in place. It will be a lot harder to terminate a tenancy. That will be enacted by one of the ministers if that ever happens again. Touch wood, it doesn't. We are seeing issues around property access at the moment and rights of entry from some tenants. The whole vaccination issue is becoming ever apparent because our industry does not have a mandate, but effectively whoever lives in the property has the right to ask or say who they want to come in. And it's tricky for us because we have no right to ask or find out what's happening. It's a very grey area at the moment. We're hoping with some more details there with the traffic light system. One thing I did want to highlight though is that Rta Act I've referenced a couple of times. This came in the 11th of February this year. Because of everything that's been going on across New Zealand, it's sort of taken a little bit of a back seat. However, there are significant charges, landlord penalties and fines that are possible for all sorts of things. One example off the top of my head, if your tenant requests to make a minor alteration to your property and you don't respond to that request, you can be fined $1,500 just by not responding. So all sorts of issues there. Don't sort of let that one slip away. But more importantly, there's some good stuff coming out of it as well. We've got huge demand from tenants. The rents are increasing. We're seeing reduced vacancy periods, particularly for those quality homes. We are noticing too the tenure of our tenancies is extending. Tenants are wanting to stay in their homes for longer. And Greg and the whole team will attest to this. There's more people like myself from Auckland and all over the place that are coming to your region and they want homes. So my advice would be try and leveraging those new build exemptions to the LVR rules and interest deductibility, because if you can grow your portfolio, we can place some bloody good tenants in there. And then obviously you'll have those capital gains that will, well, I'm not a crystal ball gazer, but it's not likely to say the market's going to crash anytime soon, that's for sure. So some good changes there. And just to close off, obviously I'm a bit biased, but I just wanted to highlight you are working there with one of the best teams we have. Our whole idea at Ray White is to really be the property management consultant. So again, we'd love to manage your property, but even if we don't, we are here to talk you through the process, give you those free guides, help you out. And they're an incredibly well supported network, but if you work with the team here, they are one of the best nationwide, and that goes across all groups. You can see the varying different awards they've won through our network over the last few years, but most importantly, and a big congratulations, the 2021 awards. You are watching a presentation tonight from our large office of the year across New Zealand. and Bring Your Bell was also a finalist for the Property Manager of the Year in a year where we received the most submissions we have ever received through the Ray White Network. So again, I know I'm a bit biased and I'm telling the truth, though it's no bullshit. This is a great team. They're here to look after you, and we're very proud of the work they do. And you know, all it takes is engaging them for some services, and you'll see that too.
Oh, thanks, Zac. You saved me telling people, which is, it's always worse when you blow your own horn. So I really appreciate that.